What's up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Ravi Wadden, and in today's video, I want to talk about an awesome lease deal on a 2024 Lexus ES300 front-wheel drive that's available for $3,999 due at signing, and your monthly payment will be roughly $449 a month. Now, in my opinion, I think this is a tremendous lease deal in terms of value, especially for this car, and I think it's one of the best Lexus lease deals in the country right now in November of 2024. But we will talk about that more in detail later in this video. So let's go ahead and jump to this video. In the first part of this video, what we're going to do is we're going to look at the national lease offer on this ES300 hybrid, and we'll talk about everything from the due at signing amount, how much you should actually put down. We'll talk about taxes, registrations. We'll talk about the mileage. We'll talk about every little nitty-gritty detail. So if you have any questions about this particular lease deal, they will be answered in this section. Then in the second part of this video, what we're going to do is run my 1.25% rule of leasing on this Lexus ES300 hybrid. And then in the third part of this video, what we'll do is we'll compare the monthly finance payments to the monthly lease payments, and I'll show you why leasing this Lexus ES300 hybrid is a better financial decision than buying this car or financing it. So if that sounds good to you, please be sure to like this video and please be sure to follow. But with that, let's go ahead and jump into the computer behind me. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here is the lease deal that we are talking about. It's a 2024 ES300 hybrid front-wheel drive. Now, as you can see, the monthly payment is $449 a month. This is a 36-month lease that requires $3,999 due at signing. Now, you will see that this lease does expire today or this evening, but my estimation is that this lease will continue through the end of November, and it might actually get better, and I think it will continue through the end of the year. Now, with this particular lease, it does allow for 10,000 miles a year. Now, if you watched my channel before, you know that if you drive, 12 or 15,000 miles a year, it's much cheaper and much better to get a 12 or 15,000 mile a year lease up front, because otherwise, if you get a 10,000 mile a year lease and you end up driving 12,000 miles a year, you're going to, drive an additional 6,000 miles over the course of the lease, and then you're going to have to pay the excess mileage penalty. And if we look at the fine print, you'll see that the excess mileage penalty is 25 cents a mile. So, you definitely don't, want to do that. Now, another thing that I do want to talk about here is the due at signing amount. Now, the first thing you want to see, or the first thing I want to talk about, is with this due at signing amount, it does not include tax, title, license, or other dealer options and charges. And that's typically referring to the second sticker, or that additional cost that dealers like to add, which is also known as a markup. So if you're actually going to lease this car, a lot of people, go into leasing and they think that, hey, Lexus is only requiring $4,000 down, and they go in with the mindset that they only have to pay $3,999. But if you pay for registration, tax, title, license, you're probably looking at more like an additional, I would say, $1,500 on top of this $4,000 that it says here. So you're probably looking at about $5,500 due at signing. Now, another piece of advice that I want to give you is to put the least amount of money down as possible. Now, just because it says $3,999 due at signing doesn't mean that you have to put down that much. You want to negotiate that down. If you can do $0 to due at signing and just pay for registration, maybe your first month's payment, acquisition fee at the time of signing, that would be fantastic. So you're looking at about $1,500 to $2,000 due at signing, and you just want to roll this $4,000 into your monthly lease payment, because remember, all you're doing by lowering the capitalized cost of this lease, because that's what you're doing when you're putting this money down, it's just cash going towards your lease. All you're doing is just prepaying the lease. There's no financial benefit of putting this money down. But yeah, your monthly payment, would be lower. But, in a hypothetical situation, if you were to get in a car accident, let's say a week or 2 weeks after you took delivery of the car, it could be very hard to recoup this $4,000 that you put down. Now, let's go ahead and look at some of the other fine print on this lease just to make sure that I haven't missed anything, because most of these Lexuses do have a buyout option. I know Toyota usually lists the buyout option. And with the buyout option, all I'm referring to is, you will be able to buy this car at the end of the lease term. And I'm looking for the language. There is not language here that I am seeing. But as a hypothetical example, as you can see here, the MSRP on this Lexus is $48,040. Now, let's just say that the residual value is $30,000. And this is just purely as, speculative example. Now, with a $30,000 residual value, what that means is Lexus is saying that this Lexus ES is going to hold its value. It's going to be worth $30,000 at the end of the lease term. And it's also saying that you can buy this Lexus at the end of the lease term for $30,000. So what you want to do is, as your lease is coming to an end, let's say you have like 2 months left on your lease, you want to see what the value of your particular car is. And if it's over $30,000, that means you have positive equity. And there's a lot of different ways that you can realize that positive equity. And on the flip side, if your vehicle is worth less than $30,000, that means you have negative equity, and you can just turn that lease back in, right? That's the beauty with leasing. So if you have positive equity, you can realize that positive equity either by, trading in your car and rolling in that positive equity into your next lease. You can sell your lease before the lease ends, and you can usually sell it to a dealer of the same make or model. So you can sell it to a Lexus dealer in your area, and if you can sell it for more than the residual value, they'll just cut you a cashier's check, which you can then deposit in your bank account. And that essentially lowers the effective monthly payment. So if you get $2,000 or $3,000 back at the end of the lease term, I say that that's a great thing, and that effectively means that your lease was cheaper than what you actually intended to pay at the beginning of your lease. Now, in this part of the video, what I want to do is bust out my handy dandy calculator, and what I want to do is run my 1.25% rule of leasing on this Lexus ES. Now, my 1.25% rule of leasing is a simple formula. And what it says is that if you get a number under 1.5%, that's a good lease deal in terms of value. So if you get a number under 1.5%, that's a lease that that's a vehicle that I would lease. That's a vehicle that I would suggest to my friends and family to lease. If you get a number under 1.25%, that's even better. That's a great lease deal. And if you get a number under 1%, that's an amazing lease deal in terms of value. And those sub 1% lease deals are typically reserved for plug-in hybrids and EVs. But this Lexus does really well in this 1.25% rule of leasing, even though it doesn't qualify for the $7,500 EV tax credit like most plug-in hybrids and most pure electric vehicles do. So anyways, let's go ahead and look at the numbers here. We're going to take the $3,999 that's due at signing, and then we're going to subtract the $449 monthly payment from that amount, since it's included in the due at signing amount. And then you get $3,550. Now, what I'm going to do is divide this by 36, since this is a 36-month lease. That gives me $98, and I'll add the monthly payment of $449 back in. And that gives me a pre-sales tax monthly payment with $0 down of $547. What I'll do here is multiply this by 1.1 to account for 10% sales tax on the payment, because the sales tax rate here where I live in the city of Seattle is 10%. And that gives me a $0 down monthly payment of $602 a month. And then what I'll do is I'll divide this by this vehicle's MSRP, which is $48,040. And that gives me 0.0125. I'll multiply this by 100 just to convert this into a percentage and move the decimal point over 2 spots. And that gives me 1.25%. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you remembered, I said anything over 1.5% is typically a bad lease deal in terms of value. Anything under 1.5% is a good lease deal in terms of value, and anything under 1.25% is a great lease deal. Under 1% is an amazing lease deal. And this Lexus is sitting at 1.25%. So I think it's a great lease deal in terms of value. And, this is especially considering that this Lexus lease deal, as you see written here, hasn't even been negotiated. So if I were shopping for this particular car, I would use this lease offer as kind of my baseline deal, right? So I'm going to try to get anywhere from 5 to 10% off of the selling price or the MSRP and try to negotiate that price down. You can see if you qualify for additional rebates to try to lower that monthly payment and make this lease deal even better and try to get better than 1.25%. Now, getting this lease deal as it's written here isn't going to be easy. A lot of dealerships are going to tell you, hey, we can't even honor this lease deal as it's written here. But what you're going to want to do is actually email, as many Lexus dealers as you can, and believe it. I mean, believe me when I say this, ladies and gentlemen, I've been doing this for a long time and I've seen people do it. You will be able to get the lease deal that you deserve and the lease deal that you want. You just have to be patient and you have to negotiate. All right, so in this part of the video, what I want to do is compare the monthly finance payments. If you were to finance this Lexus ES300 hybrid and you used a selling price of $48,040, which is the MSRP of this vehicle, let's say you did a loan term of 72 months and an interest rate of 4.49%. And the reason I'm using 4.49% is because that's what Lexus is offering. Although this is on a 60-month term, I'm going to just take a more conservative route and use a 72-month term. We're going to do no down payment, no trade-in. We're going to just select my state, which is Washington, and then a 10% sales tax rate. And then I'm not going to include the $2,000 of title registration and other fees, since I didn't do that in the lease calculation either. And when I hit calculate, you'll see that I get a monthly payment of $762 a month if I finance this particular car. And when I leased it, if you remembered it, if I did $0 down, my lease payment is $602 a month. So ladies and gentlemen, that's a substantial savings, right? You're looking at about $160 a month in savings. And even if you did this Lexus with 12 or 15,000 miles a year, your monthly payment would be about, $650 a month, let's just say, give or take. That's still much better than a monthly payment of $762 a month. Let's say, even if you got, let's say, 10% off of the selling price of this vehicle, and let's just say you got it for $43,040, you'll see that your monthly payment is still going to be $683 a month, and your monthly lease payment is going to be $602 a month. And, one of the things that people need to understand is that you will have a buyout option at the end of this lease term, right? So a lot of people are going to say, hey, Ravi, when you buy this car, you have it, you own it for a long time. But you have that same option with leasing. We just have to, but the benefit with leasing is not only do I have a great lease deal in terms of value, but at the end of the 3 years, I can see if this Lexus depreciated at a faster rate than what Lexus anticipated, or if it depreciated at a slower pace than what Lexus anticipated or what Lexus said. So, that's what I was talking about earlier in this video. So if you have positive equity, you can buy this car and drive it around for, till the wheels fall off if you wanted to. But if the value of the vehicle is less than the residual value, you have negative equity. And typically, if you finance this car and you had negative equity and you had to get out of the car in 3 years, you would be stuck with that negative equity, or you'd be rolling it into your next car. But with leasing, you can simply walk away. And that's the benefit and why I would lease this particular car. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to call it a video. If you guys haven't checked out DriveMatch.com, it's a company that I co-founded where you can get pre-negotiated lease deals. So if you don't like negotiating with the dealer, but you want to make sure you're getting a fantastic lease deal, what we've done with everything on DriveMatch is we've pre-negotiated these awesome lease deals for you, and we've made the process really, really simple. So check out DriveMatch.com. And if you guys have any questions about DriveMatch, or if you have any questions about this Lexus lease deal, please let me know in the comment section below. And just to let you know, I also offer one-on-one coaching. So if you're in the market for a car and you want to make sure you're not going to make a mistake, or if you want to learn how to exit your lease early, or if you want to learn how to buy out your lease, or if it makes sense to buy your lease, you can schedule a one-on-one call and we can go over that and we can discuss your options. But thank you all for watching. Financial knowledge is power. Please like and follow for more.